Landon Hayes stood in the rain outside a café, humiliated and alone, when a stranger sat down across from him and whispered, "Don't look now, but those men by the door are following me." That single moment, that one impossible night, would destroy everything he thought he knew about safety, survival, and second chances. Because the woman who crashed into his life wasn't just running from a bad relationship. She was the missing daughter of one of the most powerful families in the country, and loving her would cost him everything he'd spent years protecting. But some people are worth the wreckage. Follow this story to the end and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this journey reaches. The cafe smelled like burnt espresso and broken promises. Landon Hayes sat alone at a corner table, staring at his phone like it might suddenly offer an explanation. 32 years old, wearing his only decent button-down that was starting to fray at the collar, and he'd just been stood up. Again. The dating app message had arrived 20 minutes ago. Sorry, something came up. Rain check? There wouldn't be a rain check. There never was. He should have known better. Should have stayed home with Noah instead of paying Mrs. Chen $15 an hour to babysit so he could sit here pretending his life was anything other than paycheck-to-paycheck survival and microwave dinners. Rain hammered against the windows. The cafe was nearly empty. Just him, an elderly man reading a newspaper, and a bored barista wiping down the counter for the third time. Landon finished his black coffee, no sugar, because sugar cost extra. He was gathering his jacket when the door swung open. She stumbled inside like the storm had physically shoved her, soaking wet, dark hair plastered to her face. She wasn't dressed for the weather, just a thin jacket over paint-stained jeans and canvas sneakers that squelched with every step. The barista looked up. "We're closing in 10. The woman didn't respond. Her eyes swept the room, landed on Landon's table, and before he could process what was happening, she crossed the cafe and dropped into the seat across from him. "Don't look now," she said quietly, slightly breathless. "But those men by the door are following me." Landon froze, coffee cup halfway to his mouth. "Excuse me." The two guys in suits, black sedan outside. She leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. "I need you to pretend we're together, just for a minute." Landon's brain stuttered. This was insane. This woman was insane. He should stand up, grab his coat, and leave immediately. Instead, he glanced toward the window. Two men stood beneath the awning across the street, both in dark suits despite the rain, both staring directly at the cafe. "Who are you?" Landon asked. "Nobody important." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Please, 30 seconds and I'm gone." There was something in her expression, exhaustion mixed with genuine fear, that made him stay seated. "Fine," he muttered. 30 seconds. She relaxed slightly, exhaling. Up close, he could see she was younger than him, mid-20s maybe, with sharp features and dark circles under her eyes. Paint streaked her fingers. Her hands were shaking. "Thank you," she said. "You in trouble? Depends on your definition." She glanced toward the window again. The men were still there, watching. "You waiting for someone?" "I was," Landon said flatly. "She didn't show." "Her loss." He almost laughed. "You don't know me." "I know you didn't kick me out," she said. "That counts for something." The barista called out, "Seriously? We're closing." The woman stood abruptly. "They're leaving." Landon looked. The black sedan was pulling away from the curb, disappearing into the rain. She grabbed a napkin from the table, scribbled something quickly, and slid it toward him. "What's this?" "An apology," she said, "for dragging you into my mess." Before he could respond, she was gone, out the door and into the storm, vanishing like she'd never been there at all. Landon stared at the napkin, written in smudged ink. "Buy yourself a better coffee tomorrow. You deserve it. Isla." Beneath it, a $20 bill. Landon didn't think about the cafe incident again until the next morning. He was late. Always late. The alarm hadn't gone off, Noah couldn't find his backpack, and Landon burned toast while simultaneously packing lunch and signing a permission slip he'd forgotten about. "Dad, where's my math folder?" "Check under the couch." "I already checked." "Check again." Landon shoved a juice box into Noah's lunchbox alongside a bruised apple and a peanut butter sandwich. 7 years old, and his son already knew how to stretch a grocery budget better than most adults. "Found it." Noah emerged from the living room, triumphant, clutching a crumpled folder. Good. Shoes. Now. They made it to the school drop-off line with 90 seconds to spare. Noah unbuckled his seatbelt, grabbing his backpack. Love you, Dad. Love you too, bud. Have a good day. Noah hesitated, one hand on the door. You okay? Landon forced a smile. Why wouldn't I be? You look tired. I'm always tired. More tired. Go to school, Noah. His son grinned and bolted, backpack bouncing. Landon watched him disappear through the front doors before pulling back into traffic. Work was 40 minutes away in good traffic. Today it took an hour and 15. By the time Landon reached the accounting firm, his coffee from home was cold and his jaw ached from clenching. He swiped his badge, rode the elevator to the third floor, and slid into his cubicle just as his supervisor walked past. Cutting it close, Hayes. Won't happen again. It would definitely happen again. Landon booted up his computer and stared at the spreadsheet waiting for him. Endless columns of numbers, invoices, reconciliations. This was his life. Data entry and damage control. 8 hours a day, sometimes 10, hunting for discrepancies in other people's financial mistakes. He'd wanted to be an architect once. That dream died the same year his marriage did. His phone buzzed, a text from his ex-wife. Noah needs new cleats. Can you cover it? Landon closed his eyes. Cleats cost $60 minimum. He had maybe $80 in his checking account until Friday. He typed back, I'll handle it. She didn't respond. She never did unless she needed something. The morning dragged. Lunch was a vending machine sandwich eaten at his desk. Afternoon was worse. His supervisor dropped a stack of urgent files on his cubicle wall, deadlines scrawled across sticky notes. Need these by tomorrow. All of them? Problem? No problem. Landon worked through his break. Worked until his eyes burned and his back screamed from the cheap office chair that hadn't been replaced in 5 years. When he finally left, the sun was setting. He picked up Noah from aftercare, swung by the grocery store for the cheapest cleats they had, and made it home just after 7. Dinner was boxed mac and cheese because he was too exhausted for anything else. Noah did homework at the kitchen table while Landon washed dishes in a sink that leaked no matter how many times he tightened the pipes. Dad? Yeah? Can Isla come over? Landon paused, hands submerged in soapy water. Who's Isla? The lady from the café. You said you met her last night. I didn't. He stopped. He hadn't mentioned the café. How do you know about that? Noah shrugged. You left the napkin on the counter. Landon had forgotten about the napkin and the $20. She's not coming over, he said. I don't even know her. But she gave you money. That was a misunderstanding. She sounds nice. Finish your homework. Noah returned to his math problems, and Landon scrubbed a plate harder than necessary. He told himself he wouldn't go back to the café. But the next morning, after dropping Noah at school, he found himself pulling into the same parking lot. The café looked different in daylight, smaller, less dramatic. No rain, no strangers in suits, just tired commuters ordering overpriced lattes before work. Landon ordered a regular coffee and sat at the same corner table. He didn't know why. Maybe because someone had left him $20 and told him he deserved better coffee. Maybe because he was tired of his life feeling like a loop of obligations and nobody noticing he existed. He was halfway through his cup when she walked in. Isla. She looked different too, less frantic, more put together. Her hair was dry, pulled into a messy ponytail, and she wore the same paint-stained jacket but paired with cleaner jeans. She carried a worn leather sketchbook under one arm. She didn't notice him at first. She ordered something complicated, paid with crumpled bills, and turned toward the door. Then she saw him. Her expression shifted, surprise, then recognition, then something almost like relief. She walked over. You came back, she said. So did you. I come here every morning. She hesitated. Can I sit? Landon gestured to the empty chair. Isla sat down, setting her sketchbook on the table. Up close, in better light, he could see the paint wasn't just on her jacket. It stained her fingernails, smudged her wrists, dotted her collarbone. You're an artist, he said. Something like that. She sipped her coffee. You used the $20? Not yet. Why not? Felt weird, taking money from a stranger. I dragged you into my drama, seemed fair. Your drama involved men in suits often? She smiled, but it was tired. More often than I'd like. You want to talk about it? Not really. She changed the subject quickly. What do you do? Accounting. That sounds stable. It's soul-crushing. She laughed. Actually laughed, sharp and genuine. At least you're honest. What about you? I paint. She tapped the sketchbook. Mostly things nobody wants to buy. Why paint them then? Because I don't know how to stop. Something about the way she said it made Landon's chest tighten. They talked for 20 minutes, about nothing important, coffee preferences, the weather, how much the city had changed. But it felt easy, natural, like conversations used to feel before everything became transactional. When Isla finally stood to leave, Landon surprised himself. Same time tomorrow? She paused, eyes searching his face for something. Maybe, she said, but the next morning she was there, and the morning after that. It became routine faster than Landon expected. Every weekday, he dropped Noah at school, drove to the café, and found Isla already waiting at their table. Sometimes she sketched while they talked. Sometimes she just listened, chin resting on her hand, like his stories about spreadsheet errors and grocery budgets actually mattered. She never talked about herself. Not really. Deflected questions with jokes or changed the subject entirely. But Landon learned small things. She hated mornings but loved sunrise. She drank black coffee with too much sugar. She had a scar on her left hand from a childhood accident she refused to explain. And she never ever let anyone look inside her sketchbook. Why not? Landon asked one morning. Because it's personal. Art's supposed to be seen. Not all of it. He didn't push. 2 weeks in, Isla mentioned she'd noticed the picture on his phone lock screen. Your son? Noah? He's 7. He looks like you. Poor kid. She smiled. Does he live with you? Full time. His mom, we're divorced. She's got her own life now. That must be hard. It is what it is. Isla studied him carefully. You don't complain much, do you? What's the point? Most people complain constantly. Most people have the energy for it. She didn't respond, just went back to her sketchbook, pencil moving in short, deliberate strokes. Landon watched her work, wondering what she was drawing, wondering why someone like her, sharp, interesting, clearly running from something, kept showing up to talk to someone like him. Can I ask you something? He said. Depends on the question. Why do you keep coming back here? Isla's pencil stopped. She looked up, and for a moment he saw something raw in her expression. Because you don't ask me to be anyone else, she said quietly. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed. Work. He was late. I have to go, he muttered, standing quickly. See you tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow. He left feeling like he'd missed something important. Quotes. The shift happened the day Isla met Noah. It was a Friday. Landon's supervisor had dumped an emergency audit on his desk at 4:30, which meant he'd be stuck at work until at least 7. He called the aftercare program to let them know he'd be late picking Noah up. They told him someone had already signed Noah out. His blood went cold. Who? A young woman, said she was a family friend. You approved her on the contact list. I didn't approve anyone. Panic clawed up his throat. He grabbed his coat, abandoned his desk, and sprinted to the parking lot. His hand shook so badly he could barely unlock his car. He called Noah's cell, the cheap prepaid flip phone he'd bought for emergencies. Noah answered on the 3rd ring. Hey, Dad. Where are you? At the park, with Isla. Landon's foot slammed the brake. What? She said you were working late. She brought coloring stuff. Relief and fury crashed into each other. Put her on the phone. There was shuffling, then Isla's voice, calm and unbothered. Before you yell, what the hell do you think you're doing? You were stuck at work. I was nearby. It seemed easier than making him wait. You can't just take someone's kid. I didn't take him. I checked him out. There's a difference. How did you even... I called the school office yesterday and added myself to the approved list. You can remove me if you want. Landon pulled over, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. Where are you? He said through clenched teeth. Riverside Park, near the swings. He hung up and drove there in 8 minutes. The park was nearly empty. Landon spotted them immediately. Noah sitting cross-legged on a picnic table, coloring in a large sketchbook, while Isla sat beside him, adding details to whatever he was drawing. Noah looked up as Landon approached, grinning. "Dad, look! Isla's teaching me how to draw buildings." Landon's anger faltered. Isla met his eyes, unflinching. "We need to talk," she said. "Yeah, we do." She turned to Noah. "Keep working on the windows. I'll be right back." Noah nodded, already absorbed in his drawing. Isla stood and walked toward the edge of the park. Landon followed, jaw tight. "You don't get to do that," he said the moment they were out of earshot. "I know." "Then why?" "Because you were going to be late, and he was going to be stuck in aftercare for hours, and I thought maybe I could help." She crossed her arms. "I wasn't trying to overstep. You added yourself to his contact list without asking me. I should have asked first. You're right." Her immediate agreement caught him off guard. "I don't know you," Landon said, quieter now. "I don't know anything about you." "You know enough." "Do I?" Isla looked away. "I'm not dangerous, Landon. I'm just complicated." "That's not reassuring." "I know." She exhaled. "But I'm not going to hurt him or you." Landon wanted to stay angry, wanted to tell her to stay away from his son, from his life, from the fragile routine he'd built. But Noah's laughter cut through the air, bright and genuine in a way Landon hadn't heard in months. He turned. Noah was holding up his drawing, showing it to Isla, who clapped and said something that made him laugh harder. "He likes you," Landon said quietly. "I like him too. That's what scares me." Isla looked at him then, really looked at him, and something unspoken passed between them. "I'll back off," she said, "if that's what you want." Landon hesitated. He should say yes, should protect Noah from whatever chaos this woman was carrying, should protect himself. But instead he heard himself say, "Just ask next time." Isla blinked. "Next time? If you're going to pick him up from school, ask me first." A slow smile spread across her face. "Deal." They walked back to the picnic table together. Noah showed Landon his drawing, a wobbly skyscraper with uneven windows and a smiling sun in the corner. "Isla says I'm good at this," Noah announced proudly. "He is," Isla confirmed. Landon studied the drawing, throat tight. "It's great, bud." "Can Isla come over for dinner?" "Noah, please," she said. She's never had mac and cheese from a box. Isla raised her hands. "I didn't ask him to." "You've never had boxed mac and cheese?" Landon interrupted. "Sheltered childhood. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard." Noah tugged Landon's sleeve. "So can she?" Landon looked at Isla. She looked back, something cautious and hopeful in her expression. "Fine," he said. "But you're helping clean up after." Dinner was chaos. The apartment was too small for 3 people. The kitchen table wobbled, the stove burner didn't light properly. And Landon burned the first batch of mac and cheese because Noah distracted him with questions about whether Isla knew how to skateboard. But somehow, it worked. Isla sat on the kitchen counter, legs swinging, talking to Noah about his favorite cartoons while Landon salvaged dinner. She teased him about his ancient coffee maker. She complimented the crayon drawings taped to the fridge, and when they finally sat down to eat, she took a bite of mac and cheese and declared it the best thing she'd ever tasted. Noah beamed. "Told you. Old." After dinner, Isla insisted on washing dishes despite Landon's protests. Noah dragged her to the living room to show her his collection of toy cars, and Landon stood in the kitchen doorway watching them. This was dangerous, letting her into his life, into Noah's life. But for the first time in years, the apartment didn't feel empty. Later, after Noah went to bed, Isla lingered by the front door. "Thanks for letting me stay," she said. "Thanks for not poisoning my kid." She laughed softly. "Low bar." "I'm serious. He doesn't connect with people easily, not since the divorce." "He's a good kid." "He is." Landon hesitated. "You're good with him." "I had a little brother once." She said it quickly, like she regretted it immediately. "A long time ago." "What happened?" "He grew up." She reached for the door. "I should go." "Isla." She stopped. "Why are you really here?" She turned, and for a moment, he thought she might actually answer. But instead she smiled, sad and distant. Because I forgot what normal felt like, she said. And you remind me. Then she was gone. Landon stood in the doorway long after her footsteps faded, trying to figure out what he'd just let into his life. Over the next 2 weeks, Isla became part of their routine. She picked Noah up from school twice more, always asking Landon first. She brought art supplies and taught Noah how to mix colors. She showed up at the apartment unannounced with takeout when Landon worked late. And slowly, carefully, Landon let his guard down. He told her about his ex-wife, about the divorce that gutted him, about the dreams he'd abandoned because survival took priority. Isla listened, never judged, never offered empty reassurances, and in return she gave him pieces of herself. She'd grown up wealthy, hated it, left home young, hadn't spoken to her family in years. Why not? Landon asked one evening. They were sitting on his apartment steps, watching Noah chase fireflies in the courtyard. Because they wanted me to be someone I wasn't, Isla said, and I got tired of pretending. They know where you are? Probably. That bother you? Every day. Landon wanted to ask more, but Noah came running over, jar full of fireflies, and the moment passed. That night, after Isla left and Noah was asleep, Landon sat alone in the kitchen, staring at his phone. He Googled her name. Isla Monroe. The results made his stomach drop. Missing person reports from 2 years ago, articles about a prominent political family. A father, Senator Richard Monroe, who'd held office for over a decade. And a grainy photo of a younger Isla standing beside him at some charity gala, looking miserable. Landon's hand shook as he scrolled through the articles. Runaway daughter, family scandal. Searches called off after 6 months. He clicked on the most recent article. Senator Monroe announced his daughter's engagement, despite her continued absence. The article was 3 months old. Engagement. Landon closed his phone, heart pounding. He thought about the men in suits outside the café, the way Isla never stayed in one place too long, the haunted look in her eyes when she thought no one was watching. She wasn't just running, she was hiding, and he'd just invited her into the most important part of his life. Noah's laughter echoed from the bedroom, some dream playing out. Landon sat in the dark, trying to decide what to do, because loving someone who was being hunted felt like the kind of mistake that destroyed everything. But walking away from her felt impossible. Boats. The black sedan appeared 3 days later. Landon noticed it first on his drive home from work, parked across from his apartment complex, windows tinted, engine idling. He told himself it was nothing. But the next morning, it was there again. And the morning after that. On the 4th day, Landon confronted it. He walked straight to the driver's side window and knocked. The window rolled down. A man in a suit stared back at him, late 40s, expression blank. "Help you?" the man said. "You've been parked here all week. Public street. You waiting for someone?" The man smiled, cold and humorless. "Just keeping an eye on things." "On what?" "You should ask your girlfriend." Landon's blood turned to ice. The man rolled the window back up. Landon stood there, fists clenched, as the sedan pulled away. He called Isla immediately. "We need to talk." "What's wrong?" "Not over the phone. Meet me at the café. Now." She was already there when he arrived, sitting at their usual table, worry etched across her face. Landon sat down hard. "Who are they?" he said. "Who?" "The men watching my apartment. The ones who know about us." Isla's expression crumbled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "That's not an answer." "They work for my father." "The senator?" Her eyes widened. "You know, I Googled you. Should have done it sooner." Isla looked down at her hands. "I didn't want you to find out like this. How did you want me to find out?" "I don't know. I thought maybe I could just disappear before it mattered." "Before what mattered?" "Before you got hurt because of me." Landon leaned back, exhaling hard. "What do they want?" "To bring me home. My father's been looking for me since I left. He's convinced if I just come back, everything can go back to normal." "Normal meaning what?" "Meaning the life he planned for me. The marriage he arranged. The version of me that makes him look good." "You're 26 years old." "Doesn't matter. Not to him." Landon ran a hand through his hair. This is insane. I know. You're not going back. I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. Isla shook her head. You don't understand. My father doesn't lose. If I fight him, he'll destroy everyone I care about, including you, including Noah. Let him try. Landon, I'm serious. I'm not letting you go back to that. Tears welled in her eyes. Why? Because you matter. He reached across the table, taking her hand. You matter to me, to Noah, and I'm not going to stand by and let someone treat you like property. Isla pulled her hand away. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. He'll ruin you. I'm already ruined, have been for years. At least this way I'm fighting for something that matters. Isla stood abruptly. I have to go. Isla, I'm sorry, Landon, for all of this. You and Noah deserve better. She left before he could stop her. Landon sat alone in the cafe, staring at the empty chair across from him, and realized he'd just lost the first person in years who made him feel alive, and he had no idea how to get her back. Isla didn't come to the cafe the next morning, or the morning after that. Landon sat at their table both days, coffee going cold, phone silent beside him. He texted her 3 times, called twice. Every message went unanswered. By the 3rd day, he stopped going. Noah noticed immediately. Where's Isla? He asked over breakfast, pushing soggy cereal around his bowl. She's busy. Doing what? I don't know, bud. Can we call her? She'll call when she's ready. But Noah's face fell in that particular way that made Landon's chest ache. The same look he'd worn for months after the divorce, when he'd stopped asking when Mom was coming home. She's not coming back, is she? Noah said quietly. Landon wanted to lie. Wanted to promise everything would be fine. I don't know, he said instead. Noah nodded like he'd expected that answer and went back to his cereal without another word. Work became unbearable. Landon stared at spreadsheets without seeing them, missed 3 deadlines, and snapped at a coworker who asked if he was feeling okay. His supervisor pulled him aside on Thursday afternoon. What's going on with you? Nothing, I'm fine. You don't look fine. I said I'm handling it. His supervisor studied him for a long moment. Take tomorrow off. Get your head straight. It wasn't a suggestion. Landon left work early, picked Noah up from school, and drove home in silence. The black sedan was gone from the parking lot, but that didn't make him feel better. It made him feel worse, like Isla's father had already won whatever game this was. That night, after Noah went to bed, Landon pulled out his laptop. He didn't know what he was looking for exactly. Answers, maybe. Or proof that he wasn't crazy for caring about someone who disappeared from his life as suddenly as she'd entered it. He typed Senator Richard Monroe into the search bar. The results were extensive. Campaign websites, political endorsements, charity galas, a carefully curated public image of a man who cared deeply about family values and traditional morals. Landon clicked through article after article, building a profile in his head. Richard Monroe was powerful, connected, ruthless when crossed. He'd built his career on control, controlling narratives, controlling opponents, controlling his own family's image. And Isla had walked away from all of it. Landon found an interview from 5 years ago where Monroe briefly mentioned his daughter. Isla's a bright young woman with a promising future, he'd said, smiling for the camera. We're very proud of her. The interview was dated 6 months before she disappeared. Landon kept digging. He found the engagement announcement she'd mentioned, a press release from 3 months ago stating that Isla Monroe would be marrying Connor Hastings, son of a prominent real estate developer, in a private ceremony later that year. The photo attached showed Connor at some political fundraiser, shaking hands with Monroe. Mid-30s, expensive suit, smile that didn't reach his eyes. Landon's stomach turned. She wasn't just running from her father. She was running from a life that had been sold out from under her. He closed the laptop and sat in the dark, trying to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do with any of this information. The answer came 2 days later. Landon was walking Noah home from the bus stop when he saw her. Isla was sitting on the stairs outside his apartment building, knees pulled to her chest, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Noah saw her first. Isla! He broke into a run before Landon could stop him. Isla stood quickly, catching Noah as he crashed into her with a hug that nearly knocked her over. Hey, kiddo, she said, voice rough. Where were you? Dad said you were busy, but I didn't believe him. I'm sorry. I had some things to figure out. Noah pulled back, studying her face with the unsettling perceptiveness of children. Are you okay? I'm getting there. Landon reached them, heart pounding. Noah, go inside. I need to talk to Isla. But inside. Now. Noah hesitated, then obeyed, casting one last worried glance at Isla before disappearing through the front door. Landon turned to her. What are you doing here? Isla's eyes were red-rimmed, her face pale. I'm leaving. What? Tomorrow morning. I already bought a bus ticket. I'm going somewhere he can't find me. That's your plan? Just run? It's the only plan that keeps you safe. I don't want to be safe, Landon said. I want you to stop making decisions for me. You don't understand? Then explain it to me. Isla exhaled shakily. My father called me yesterday. I don't know how he got my number, but he did. He said if I didn't come home by the end of the week, he'd make sure you lost your job, your apartment, custody of Noah. Landon's blood went cold. He can't do that. Yes, he can. He's done worse to people who got in his way. So you're just going to give up? I'm protecting you. By disappearing. That's not protection, Isla. That's abandonment. She flinched like he'd slapped her. I came to say goodbye, she said quietly. I thought you deserved that much. I don't want goodbye. You don't have a choice. Stop telling me what I don't have. Landon's voice cracked. I spent 3 years after my divorce convincing myself I didn't have choices, that I just had to survive and keep Noah fed, and that was enough. And then you showed up and made me feel like maybe there was more to life than just getting through the day. So don't stand here and tell me I don't have a choice about whether you stay or go. Isla's composure shattered. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I can't let him hurt you, she whispered. He's already hurting you, and watching you run is hurting me. What am I supposed to do, Landon? Fight him? He'll destroy both of us. Maybe, but at least we'll go down swinging. She shook her head. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. He stepped closer. I'm tired of being afraid, tired of playing it safe, tired of living small because I'm scared of what I might lose. Stay, please. Let me help you figure this out. There's nothing to figure out. Then we'll make something up, together. Isla looked at him like she wanted desperately to believe that was possible. But before she could respond, the apartment door opened. Noah stood in the doorway, still in his backpack. Are you fighting? He asked. Landon turned. Go back inside, bud. Is Isla leaving? Neither of them answered. Noah's face crumpled. You promised you'd teach me how to paint clouds. Isla covered her mouth with her hand, fresh tears streaming. I know, she managed. I'm sorry. Then don't go. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Noah crossed his arms. If you want to stay, you stay. If you want to go, you go. But don't go because you think we don't want you here. Because we do. Landon's throat tightened. Isla looked between them, something breaking open in her expression. Okay, she whispered. Okay? Landon repeated. I'll stay. I don't know for how long, but I'll stay. Noah whooped and ran to hug her again. Isla held him tight, eyes closed, like she was trying to memorize the feeling. Over Noah's head, she met Landon's gaze. I hope you know what you're doing, she said. I don't, Landon admitted. But we'll figure it out. He wasn't sure he believed that, but watching Isla hold his son, watching the relief wash over both their faces, he decided it didn't matter. Some things were worth the risk. The next 2 weeks were strange, careful, like all three of them were walking on glass. Isla stayed, but she was different, more cautious. She stopped coming to the café every morning and started showing up at random times instead. Afternoons, evenings, once at 6 in the morning when Landon was making breakfast. Couldn't sleep, she'd said by way of explanation. She also stopped talking about herself entirely. Whenever Landon asked about her day or where she'd been, she deflected with jokes or changed the subject. But she was there, and that felt like enough. Noah didn't ask questions. He just soaked up her presence like sunlight, showing her his schoolwork, begging her to draw with him, dragging her into made-up games that involved elaborate rules only he understood. And Isla played along with a fierce kind of attention that made Landon wonder if she was trying to memorize these moments, too. One Friday evening, she showed up with grocery bags. What's this? Landon asked. Dinner. Real dinner. Not boxed anything. I don't remember inviting you to cook. You didn't. I invited myself. She took over his tiny kitchen with surprising efficiency, chopping vegetables and seasoning chicken like she'd done it 1,000 times. Noah sat on the counter, asking questions about every ingredient. Why does garlic smell like that? Because it's angry, Isla said seriously. Garlic can't be angry. Sure it can. You crush it, it gets mad. That's the smell. Noah giggled. That's not real. Prove it. Landon watched from the doorway, arms crossed, trying not to smile. Dinner was chaotic. The kitchen was too small for 3 people. Noah spilled his juice. Isla burned her hand on the pan and swore, then immediately apologized to Noah, who thought it was hilarious. But the food was good. Better than good. Where'd you learn to cook? Landon asked. Grew up with a personal chef, Isla said. Spent most of my childhood watching him work because I wasn't allowed to do anything myself. Picked up a few things. It was the most she'd said about her past in days. Why weren't you allowed? Noah asked. My father thought cooking was for staff, not family. That's dumb, Isla laughed. Yeah, it really is. After dinner, Isla helped Noah with a school project, building a model of the solar system out of styrofoam balls and paint. Landon tried to help, but mostly just held things while Isla explained orbital patterns in terms a 7-year-old could understand. When Noah finally went to bed, Isla started cleaning up the art supplies scattered across the living room floor. You don't have to do that, Landon said. I know. Isla, she stopped, paintbrush in hand. What happens when he finds you again? Landon asked quietly. I don't know. That's not good enough. It's the only answer I have. Landon moved closer. He's going to come for you eventually. You know that. Probably. And when he does? Isla set down the paintbrush. Then I deal with it. How? I don't know, Landon. Her voice rose, then immediately softened. I'm sorry. I don't have a plan. I've never had a plan. I just keep moving and hope I stay ahead of him long enough to figure something out. That's not sustainable. Neither is fighting him head on. Maybe not, but hiding forever isn't living. Isla looked at him, exhausted. What do you want me to say? I want you to stop pretending this is temporary. It is temporary. Everything is. Not if we don't let it be. She shook her head. You're being naive. Maybe, but I'd rather be naive and fighting than smart and running. Isla didn't respond. She just gathered her jacket and headed for the door. Thank you for dinner, Landon said. She paused. You're welcome. Will you come back tomorrow? I don't know. But she did come back, and the day after that. And Landon started to believe maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. That belief lasted exactly 11 days. Landon was leaving work late on a Tuesday when he noticed the car following him. Not the black sedan this time. A silver SUV with tinted windows, staying 3 cars back but matching every turn he made. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. He took a deliberately wrong turn. The SUV followed. He turned again. Still there. Panic clawed up his throat. He thought about calling the police, but what would he say? That someone might be following him? That his maybe girlfriend's powerful father might be having him watched? He drove to the grocery store instead. Public, well-lit, cameras everywhere. The SUV parked 4 spaces down. Landon got out slowly, keeping his phone in his hand. The SUV's door opened and a woman stepped out. Mid-40s, business suit, expression unreadable. She walked straight toward him. Mr. Hayes? Who's asking? My name is Victoria Chen. I work for Senator Monroe. Landon's stomach dropped. I don't have anything to say to you. I'm not here to threaten you. She held up her hands. I'm here to deliver a message. I'm not interested. The senator wants to meet with you. Absolutely not. He's willing to pay you for your time. $20,000 for 1 hour of conversation. Landon stared at her. You're joking. I'm completely serious. She pulled an envelope from her jacket. Half now, half after the meeting. All he wants is to talk. About what? About his daughter. He can talk to her himself. She won't take his calls. Smart woman. Victoria's expression didn't change. Mr. Hayes, I understand you care about Isla. The senator does too. He just wants what's best for her. If he wanted what's best for her, he'd leave her alone. Unfortunately, that's not an option. She held out the envelope. Please consider this, for Isla's sake. Landon didn't take it. Tell the senator I'm not interested in his money or his conversation, and tell him if he keeps following me, I'm calling the police. Victoria lowered the envelope. That would be unwise. Is that a threat? It's advice. The senator is a powerful man with powerful friends. You don't want to make an enemy of him. Too late. Victoria sighed. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Good. She tucked the envelope back into her jacket. He'll reach out again. Hopefully next time you'll be more reasonable. She walked back to the SUV and drove away. Landon stood in the parking lot, hands shaking, trying to process what had just happened. $20,000 for one conversation. He thought about his overdue electric bill, about Noah's school expenses, about the constant weight of barely making ends meet. Then he thought about Isla, about the look in her eyes when she talked about her father, about the life she'd run from, and he knew he'd made the right choice. He drove straight to Isla's apartment, a studio she rented under a fake name in a building that didn't ask questions. She answered the door in paint-stained sweats, hair tied back, confusion crossing her face. What's wrong? Your father's people approached me. Her face went white. When? 20 minutes ago. Offered me money to meet with him. How much? 20,000. Isla swayed slightly. Landon caught her elbow. Did you take it? She asked. Of course not. Why not? Are you serious? $20,000 could change your life, Landon. Not the way he wants it to. Isla pulled away, pacing her tiny apartment. This is exactly what I was afraid of. He's escalating. First surveillance, now direct contact. Next he'll... She stopped. Next he'll what? Nothing. Isla, he'll come for me directly, she said quietly. He'll stop being subtle and just take what he wants. Let him try. You don't understand what he's capable of. Then tell me. She turned to face him, eyes blazing. When I was 17, I had a boyfriend my father didn't approve of. Nothing serious, just a guy from school who made me laugh. My father found out and had him expelled. Convinced the admissions board at every college he applied to that he was a cheater. Destroyed his future because he held my hand at a movie theater. Landon's blood ran cold. When I was 22, Isla continued, I tried to move out. Rented an apartment with money I'd saved. My father had the landlord evict me within a week. Blacklisted me from every rental agency in the city. I ended up living in my car for 3 months until I learned how to disappear properly. He doesn't lose, Landon. He doesn't compromise. He doesn't stop. And now he knows about you, about Noah. And he will use that against me until I break. So what do you want me to do? Walk away? Yes. Not happening. Why are you being so stubborn about this? Because I love you. The words hung in the air between them. Isla stared at him, mouth slightly open, like he'd just spoken a language she didn't understand. Landon's heart hammered. He hadn't meant to say it, hadn't even fully admitted it to himself. But now it was out there, and he couldn't take it back. You don't mean that, Isla whispered. Yes, I do. You barely know me. I know enough. You know the version of me I let you see. You don't know the mess I've dragged with me, the mistakes I've made, the people I've hurt trying to stay free. I don't care. You should. Landon crossed the room, stopping directly in front of her. I spent 3 years convinced I was done, he said. Done with relationships, done with hoping things could be different, done with anything that wasn't just survival. And then you walked into that cafe and sat down across from me, and for the first time since my divorce, I remembered what it felt like to be alive. So yeah, maybe I barely know you, maybe this whole thing is crazy, but I'd rather have crazy with you than safe without you. Isla's eyes filled with tears. I'm going to ruin your life, she said. You're going to save it. She kissed him. It was desperate and messy and tasted like tears, and Landon kissed her back like she might disappear if he let go. When they finally broke apart, Isla pressed her forehead against his. I don't know how to fix this, she whispered. Then we'll figure it out together. What if we can't? Then at least we tried. She pulled back slightly, studying his face. Noah can't get hurt because of this. He won't. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll do everything possible to keep him safe, same as I'll do for you. Isla closed her eyes. I've never had someone fight for me before. Get used to it. She laughed, broken and wet, and pulled him close again. They stood there in her tiny apartment, holding each other, and Landon tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. He failed, but he also didn't let go. The attack came 3 days later. Landon was walking Noah home from the bus stop when a man stepped out from between two parked cars. Mr. Hayes, we need to talk. Landon immediately pushed Noah behind him. Stay back. The man raised his hands. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I just need 5 minutes of your time. Not interested. The senator's patience is running out. Good for him. The man's expression hardened. You're making a mistake. Wouldn't be my first. Another man appeared from the opposite direction, blocking their path to the apartment building. Landon's pulse spiked. Noah, when I say run, you run straight inside and lock the door. Understand? Dad, understand? Yes. The first man took a step forward. This doesn't have to get ugly. Then leave. Not without an answer. Will you meet with the senator or not? Not. The man sighed. You're choosing this. He moved fast, faster than Landon expected, grabbed his arm, started pulling him toward a car parked at the curb. Landon swung, connected with the man's jaw. The man stumbled back, shocked. Run! Landon yelled. Noah bolted. The second man tried to grab him. Landon threw himself between them, tackling the guy to the ground. They hit the pavement hard, pain exploding through Landon's shoulder. Someone shouted. Neighbors were coming out of buildings, phones raised. The two men exchanged glances, then retreated to their car. They peeled out, tires screeching. Landon rolled onto his back, gasping for air. A neighbor rushed over. Are you okay? Should I call the police? I'm fine, Landon lied, sitting up slowly. Just a misunderstanding? That didn't look like a misunderstanding. Please, I just need to check on my son. He limped to the apartment building. Noah was inside the lobby, pressed against the wall, eyes wide with terror. Dad! Landon pulled him into a hug. You're okay. We're okay. Who were those men? Nobody. It's handled. They tried to hurt you. I'm fine, bud. But Noah was shaking, and Landon realized with sickening clarity that this was far from over. He called Isla the moment Noah was distracted with homework. They came after me, he said without preamble. Silence. Isla? I'm here. Her voice was hollow. Are you hurt? I'm fine, but they grabbed me in front of Noah. Oh no, your father's done playing games. I know. So what do we do? More silence. Isla, talk to me. I have to leave, she said finally. Tonight. If I'm gone, he has no reason to come after you. That's not a solution. It's the only solution. No. We're ending this. Now. How? Landon's mind raced. Then something clicked. I work in accounting, he said slowly. What? I audit financial records for a living. I see things other people miss. I don't understand. Your father's a senator. He's been in office for years, which means somewhere in his finances there's dirt. There has to be. Landon, you can't watch me. He hung up before she could argue. Then he opened his laptop and started digging. Landon spent the next 4 hours buried in public records. Senator Richard Monroe's financial disclosures were publicly available, mandatory filings that documented income, investments, and business interests. Most people never looked at them. They were dense, technical, filled with legal jargon designed to obscure rather than illuminate. But Landon read financial documents for a living. He knew how to spot inconsistencies. He started with the basics. Monroe's official Senate salary was modest, around $174,000 a year, but his disclosed net worth was over $12 million. Not unusual for a long-serving senator. Many accumulated wealth through investments, speaking fees, book deals. Landon dug deeper. Monroe owned stock in several companies, all properly disclosed. He'd received consulting fees from a political action committee, also disclosed. His wife had inherited property in Virginia. Everything seemed legitimate. But then Landon noticed something odd. 3 years ago, Monroe had sold a commercial property in Maryland for $800,000. The buyer was listed as Hastings Development Group. Landon's stomach tightened. Hastings. The same last name as Connor, the man Isla was supposed to marry. He pulled up records for Hastings Development Group. Connor's father, William Hastings, was the CEO. The company specialized in luxury real estate and had multiple government contracts. Landon cross-referenced the dates. The property sale happened 2 weeks after Hastings Development was awarded a $50 million contract to build a federal courthouse. The contract Monroe had pushed through committee. Landon's hands trembled as he typed faster. He found more. A series of small transactions over 5 years, property sales, stock transfers, consulting fees, all connected to companies that had received government contracts Monroe had supported. Individually, they looked innocent. Together, they formed a pattern. Monroe was selling his influence. Quietly, carefully. But the evidence was there, buried in public records nobody bothered to examine closely. Landon leaned back, heart racing. This was it. This was how he could stop Monroe. His phone rang. Isla. "Did you find something?" she asked immediately. "Yeah, I think so." "What is it?" "Your father's been taking bribes, disguised as legitimate business transactions, but it's bribery. I can prove it." Silence. "Isla, are you sure?" "I've spent years finding financial fraud. This is fraud." "What are you going to do with it?" "I don't know yet. But if I can get this to the right people, journalists, prosecutors, your father won't have time to worry about you. He'll be too busy trying to stay out of prison." "Landon, this is dangerous." "I know. If he finds out you're looking into him..." "He already came after me in broad daylight. How much worse can it get?" Isla's voice cracked. "A lot worse. Then we need to move fast." "We? You think I'm doing this alone?" "I think you should." "Not happening." He heard her exhale shakily. "I don't want you getting hurt because of me." "Too late. I'm already involved, and I'd rather go down fighting than spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder." "You're insane." "Probably. You still in?" A long pause, then quietly. "Yes." "Good. Meet me tomorrow morning. We need a plan." After they hung up, Landon sat in the dark apartment, listening to Noah's soft breathing from the bedroom. What he was about to do could destroy everything, could cost him his job, his safety, maybe even his son. But watching Isla run forever wasn't an option either. He saved his research to a flash drive, cleared his browser history, and went to bed knowing sleep wouldn't come. He was right. The next morning, Landon dropped Noah at school and drove to a diner across town, somewhere public but far enough from their usual spots that they wouldn't be easily tracked. Isla was already there, sitting in a back booth, 2 cups of coffee waiting. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept either. Landon slid into the seat across from her. "You okay?" he asked. "No? You?" "Not even a little." She almost smiled. "So, what's the plan?" Landon pulled out the flash drive. "Everything I found is on here. Financial records, property transactions, timeline of contracts. It's not a smoking gun, but it's enough to raise serious questions." "Who do we take it to?" "That's the problem. Your father has connections everywhere. Police, prosecutors, politicians. If we go to the wrong person, they'll bury it. So we go to the press. Maybe. But we need to be smart about it. One wrong move and he'll discredit us before the story even breaks." Isla picked up her coffee, hands wrapped around the mug like she was trying to absorb its warmth. "There's a reporter, Sarah Mitchell. She's been investigating political corruption for years, published some big exposés on campaign finance violations. You know her?" "Not personally, but I've followed her work. She's relentless, and she hates my father." "Why?" "He blocked one of her investigations 3 years ago, used his influence to shut down her access to documents. She's had it out for him ever since." Landon considered this. "Think she'd meet with us? If we have something real? Absolutely. Then let's contact her." Isla pulled out her phone, then hesitated. "Once we do this, there's no going back." "I know. My father will come after both of us with everything he has." "Let him." "Landon, I'm tired of being afraid," he said quietly. Tired of watching people I care about get hurt while I stand by and do nothing. I couldn't stop my marriage from falling apart. Couldn't stop my ex from leaving. But this I can do something about. Isla's eyes glistened. You're a good man. I'm a desperate man. There's a difference. No, there isn't. She reached across the table and took his hand. For a moment, they just sat there, holding on to each other like it was the only solid thing in a world that had started spinning too fast. Then Isla pulled up Sarah Mitchell's contact information and started typing an email. 3 hours later, they were sitting in a different cafe, this one Sarah Mitchell's choice, waiting. She arrived exactly on time. Late 40s, sharp eyes, dressed like someone who'd spent too many years chasing stories in too many dangerous places. She sat down without ordering anything. You have 10 minutes, she said. Make it count. Landon slid the flash drive across the table. Senator Richard Monroe has been accepting bribes disguised as legitimate business transactions, property sales to companies that later received government contracts he pushed through, consulting fees from PACs connected to developers he helped. It's all there. Sarah picked up the flash drive, turning it over in her fingers. How did you get this? Public records, financial disclosures. It's all legal information, just nobody bothered to connect the dots before. And you are? Nobody. Just an accountant who knows how to read financial statements. Sarah's gaze shifted to Isla. And you? His daughter? Sarah's eyebrows shot up. The runaway daughter. Former runaway? Isla said. I'm done running. Why come to me? Because you're the only journalist in this city my father can't buy or intimidate. You're sure about that? No, but I'm hoping. Sarah studied them both for a long moment. Then she pocketed the flash drive. I'll look at it. If it's legitimate, I'll run the story. If it's garbage, we never had this conversation. It's legitimate, Landon said. We'll see. She stood. Don't contact me again. If I need more information, I'll reach out. How long will it take? Isla asked. Isla. As long as it takes to verify everything and build a case that won't get me sued into oblivion. She paused. You two should disappear for a while. If Monroe finds out you're behind this before the story breaks, he'll bury you. We can handle ourselves, Landon said. Sarah's expression softened slightly. I hope you're right. She left without another word. Landon and Isla sat in silence. Now what? Isla asked. Now we wait. I hate waiting. Me too. They waited 3 days. 3 days of Landon jumping at every car that slowed near his apartment. 3 days of Isla checking her phone obsessively for messages from Sarah. 3 days of trying to act normal around Noah while feeling like everything was about to explode. On the 4th day, Landon's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Hello? Mr. Hayes, this is Sarah Mitchell. Landon's heart stopped. Did you verify it? Every transaction, every date, every connection, it's all there. So you're running the story? Tomorrow morning, front page above the fold. I'm calling as a courtesy. You have about 12 hours before this hits. Get somewhere safe. What about you? I've been doing this a long time. I know how to handle pushback. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Monroe's going to burn everything down trying to save himself. Make sure you're not standing too close when he does. She hung up. Landon immediately called Isla. The story runs tomorrow. Oh no. Oh no. That's the reaction? That means we have 12 hours before my father finds out we're responsible. Sarah didn't use our names. He'll know anyway. He always knows. Landon's stomach twisted. What do you want to do? I don't know. Run? Hide? Pray he doesn't kill us. We're not running, and he's not going to kill us. You don't know that. No, but I know we're not doing this alone. We have the truth on our side. The truth doesn't stop bullets. Your father's not a gangster. He's a politician. Politicians use lawyers, not guns. You're being naive again. Probably. But I'm also not backing down. Isla was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm coming over. You don't have to. Yes, I do. If we only have 12 hours before everything goes to hell, I'm not spending them alone. She arrived 20 minutes later. Noah was already asleep. Landon let Isla in, and they sat on the couch in the dark living room, neither speaking. Finally, Isla broke the silence. I'm scared. Me too. What if this doesn't work? Then we figure out plan B. What's plan B? I have no idea. She laughed, sharp and bitter. We're terrible at this. Yeah, we really are. She leaned against him and he wrapped his arm around her shoulders. They sat like that for hours, not talking, just existing together in the quiet space before the storm. Around midnight, Isla spoke again. When I left home, I promised myself I'd never let anyone control me again, that I'd rather be alone and free than trapped and protected. You're not trapped. I know. That's what scares me. Why? Because this, you, Noah, this apartment, this life, it matters. And when things matter, you have something to lose. Is that so bad? It is when my father's about to try to take it all away. Landon pulled her closer. He can try. Doesn't mean he'll succeed. You don't know him like I do. Then it's a good thing you know him well enough for both of us. She tilted her head up to look at him. How are you so calm about this? I'm not calm. I'm terrified. But I spent 3 years being terrified of losing things I'd already lost. This is the first time I'm scared of losing something I actually have. That's not comforting. Wasn't trying to be comforting. I'm trying to be honest. Isla kissed him, soft and slow, like she was trying to memorize the feeling. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet. If this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, Isla, just let me say this. She took a shaky breath. If this goes wrong and we have to run, I need you to promise me you'll protect Noah first, not me. Him. That's not happening. Promise me. No. Landon, I'm not choosing between you. I'm protecting both of you. End of discussion. You can't protect everyone. Watch me. She stared at him, then shook her head. You're impossible. You've mentioned that before. I'm serious. So am I. They fell silent again. Somewhere around 2 a.m, Isla fell asleep against his shoulder. Landon stayed awake, staring at the dark ceiling, trying to prepare for whatever came next. The article went live at 6 a.m. Landon's phone started ringing before he'd even finished his first cup of coffee. His supervisor, a coworker, his ex-wife, numbers he didn't recognize. He ignored all of them and pulled up the news website. The headline was brutal: Senator Monroe under investigation for bribery and corruption. Below it, Sarah Mitchell's byline. And below that, a detailed breakdown of every transaction Landon had found, corroborated with additional documents Sarah had obtained through her own sources. It was damning, thorough, impossible to dismiss as speculation. Within an hour, every major news outlet was running the story. By 8, the senator's office had released a statement denying all allegations and threatening legal action. By 9, federal prosecutors had announced they were opening an investigation. Landon watched it all unfold from his couch, Isla beside him, both of them too stunned to speak. It's working, Isla whispered. Yeah. He's going to come for us. I know. The knock came at 10:30. 3 hard raps on the apartment door. Landon's blood ran cold. Isla grabbed his arm. Don't answer it, she hissed. Another knock, louder. Mr. Hayes, we know you're in there. Landon moved to the door, looked through the peephole. 2 men in suits, FBI badges visible on their belts. He opened the door. Landon Hayes? That's me. We need to ask you some questions about Senator Richard Monroe. Am I under arrest? No, sir. We just need your cooperation. Landon glanced back at Isla. She looked terrified. Can this wait? He asked. I need to get my son to school. We'll make it quick. They spent 2 hours questioning him, where he'd obtained the documents, how he'd connected the transactions, whether he'd worked with anyone else. Landon told them everything. He had nothing to hide. When they finally left, he felt hollowed out. Isla was pacing the apartment. What did they say? They're building a case. They think I'm a witness, not a suspect. That's good, right? I guess. You guess? Isla, I just implicated a United States senator in federal crimes. I don't know what's good anymore. She stopped pacing. You did the right thing. Tell that to Noah when reporters start showing up at his school. They won't. His phone rang. The school's number, Landon answered, stomach sinking. Mr. Hayes, this is Principal Brennan. We've had several individuals attempting to access campus asking about Noah. We've denied them entry, but I wanted to let you know. What kind of individuals? They claim to be journalists. Landon closed his eyes. I'm coming to get him. That's probably wise. He hung up and grabbed his jacket. I have to get Noah. I'm coming with you. No, stay here. If reporters see you with me, they'll know you're involved. I don't care, Pa. I do. Please, just stay here. Isla looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded. Landon drove to the school, going 10 miles over the speed limit the entire way. There were 3 news vans parked across the street, cameras, reporters. He pulled into the school lot, texted the principal, and waited. 5 minutes later, a staff member brought Noah out through a side entrance. He climbed into the car, eyes wide. Dad, what's going on? Nothing. Just picking you up early. There's cameras outside. I know, Bud. Are we in trouble? No, we're fine. It was a lie. And from Noah's expression, he knew it. Landon drove them home, checking the rearview mirror constantly to make sure they weren't being followed. When they got back to the apartment, Isla was gone. Landon's heart stopped. A note sat on the kitchen table. He picked it up with shaking hands. I'm sorry. I can't let you and Noah get destroyed because of me. I'm turning myself into my father. Maybe if I go back, he'll leave you alone. Don't try to find me. You've done enough. Thank you for everything. I know, Landon whispered. Noah appeared in the doorway. Where's Isla? Landon crumpled the note. I don't know. Dad, I said I don't know. Noah flinched. Landon immediately softened. I'm sorry, Bud. I didn't mean to yell. Is she coming back? Landon wanted to say yes, wanted to promise everything would be okay, but he was so tired of lying. I don't know, he said honestly. Noah's face fell. He turned and walked back to his room without another word. Landon stood alone in the kitchen, holding the note, trying to figure out what the hell to do next. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. If you want to see her again, meet me at the address below. Come alone. R. Monroe. Below it, an address in an upscale part of the city. Landon stared at the message. Every rational part of his brain screamed this was a trap. But Isla was out there. Probably scared, definitely in danger, and he'd promised he wouldn't let her face her father alone. He called Mrs. Chen, asked if she could watch Noah for a few hours. Then he grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. He was done running, done hiding, done letting other people make decisions about his life. If Monroe wanted to talk, they'd talk. And if Monroe wanted a fight, he'd get one. The address led to a private office building in the financial district, all glass and steel, the kind of place where deals got made behind closed doors and nobody asked questions. Landon parked across the street and sat in his car for a full minute, trying to calm his racing heart. This was stupid, reckless, exactly the kind of move that got people hurt. But Isla was in there. He got out of the car. The lobby was empty except for a security guard who barely glanced at him before waving him toward the elevators. Clearly, he'd been expected. Landon rode to the 15th floor, jaw clenched. The elevator doors opened to a hallway with a single office at the end. The door was already open. He walked through. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Expensive furniture, artwork that probably cost more than Landon made in 5 years. And sitting behind an enormous mahogany desk was Senator Richard Monroe. He looked different than his photos, older, harder, with eyes that missed nothing. He wore a suit that fit perfectly, and an expression that suggested he was deeply annoyed at having to be here. Isla sat in a chair across from him, looking small and defeated. Landon's chest tightened. Mr. Hayes, Monroe said, standing. Thank you for coming. Where's Isla? Right here, as you can see, unharmed. Let her go. In a moment. First, we talk. We have nothing to talk about. Monroe gestured to an empty chair. Sit. I'll stand. Suit yourself? Monroe sat back down, steepling his fingers. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yeah, exposed you for what you are. You've started a media circus based on circumstantial evidence and speculation. The FBI doesn't seem to think it's speculation. Monroe's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. The investigation will go nowhere. My lawyers are already dismantling your so-called evidence piece by piece. Good luck with that. I don't need luck, Mr. Hayes. I need you to understand something. He leaned forward. You've made a very powerful enemy, and enemies of mine tend to have unfortunate accidents, lost jobs, custody battles they can't win, financial audits that reveal irregularities that may or may not exist. Are you threatening me? I'm explaining reality. Landon glanced at Isla. She was staring at the floor, hands clasped in her lap. Isla, he said, are you okay? She didn't respond. She's fine, Monroe said, just coming to terms with the consequences of her choices. Let her speak for herself. She doesn't want to speak to you. I don't believe that. Monroe smiled, cold and sharp. Believe what you want. The fact remains that my daughter has agreed to come home. She'll fulfill her obligations. Marry Connor Hastings, resume her place in this family, and you'll go back to your small life and forget any of this happened. That's not happening. It already is. Landon looked at Isla again. Tell me he's lying. She finally looked up. Her eyes were red, but her expression was blank. I'm going back, Landon. Why? Because it's the only way to protect you and Noah. That's not protection. That's surrender. Call it whatever you want. Isla, go home. Forget about me. Move on. Her voice was hollow, rehearsed, like she was reading lines someone else had written. Landon's hands clenched into fists. What did he say to you? Nothing I didn't already know. Which is, Monroe interrupted, which is that people like you don't belong in our world, Mr. Hayes. You're a nice enough man, I'm sure. Hardworking, well-intentioned, but you're not equipped to handle the kind of pressure my family operates under. And my daughter has finally realized that dragging you into her mess was a mistake. She didn't drag me anywhere. I chose this, and now you can choose to walk away. Not without her. Monroe's smile faded. Then you're more foolish than I thought. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a thick manila envelope. He slid it across the desk toward Landon. What is this? $50,000. Cash. Take it. Leave the city. Start over somewhere your son won't be harassed by reporters. Somewhere his father's reputation isn't destroyed. Landon stared at the envelope. You think you can buy me? Everyone has a price, Mr. Hayes. Yours is lower than most, I imagine. Go to hell. I've been there. It's called politics. Monroe leaned back in his chair. Let me be very clear. If you walk out of here without taking that money, I will destroy you. I'll have you audited, investigated. I'll dig through every corner of your pathetic little life until I find something. And trust me, I always find something. And when I'm done, you'll lose your job, your apartment, and your son. Because no judge will grant custody to an unemployed man under federal investigation. Landon's vision tunneled. You can't do that. I can. I have. I will. The FBI is already investigating you for financial irregularities that my lawyers will explain away as clerical errors and misunderstandings. I've been in this game for 20 years. You've been in it for a week. Who do you think has the better odds? Landon looked at Isla. Tell me to fight. Tell me you want me to fight for you. She met his eyes, and for a brief second he saw everything she wasn't saying, the fear, the regret, the desperate hope that he'd understand. But her words came out flat. Take the money, Landon. Go home. I don't believe you. Believe whatever helps you sleep at night. Monroe stood. This conversation is over. Take the money or don't. But either way, you're leaving, and my daughter is staying. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway, the same men who'd tried to grab Landon outside his apartment. Landon's pulse spiked. What happens if I refuse? Then we escort you out, forcibly, if necessary. You'd really do this? In front of your own daughter? My daughter understands how the world works. You apparently don't. Landon took a step toward Isla's chair. The guards moved to block him. Isla, he said, voice breaking, please, don't do this. She stood slowly, still not meeting his eyes. Goodbye, Landon. That's it? After everything? After everything, you're still alive. So is Noah. That's all that matters. Not to me. Then you're an idiot. The words hit like a slap. Monroe gestured to the guards. Show Mr. Hayes out. They grabbed Landon's arms. He didn't resist, just kept his eyes on Isla. "I'm not giving up on you," he said. "You should." They dragged him toward the door. "Isla!" She finally looked at him, really looked at him, and he saw tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then the door slammed shut between them. The guards threw Landon out of the building. He hit the sidewalk hard, palms scraping concrete. Pain shot through his wrists, but he barely felt it. He sat there for a long moment, breathing hard, trying to process what had just happened. Isla was gone. Monroe had won, and there wasn't a damn thing he could do about it. He pulled himself up and stumbled to his car. The drive home was a blur. He barely remembered navigating traffic, barely registered the turns. When he got back to the apartment, Mrs. Chen was still there, watching Noah work on homework at the kitchen table. "Everything okay?" she asked, concern creasing her face. "Fine. Thanks for staying." She left quickly, clearly sensing he didn't want to talk. Noah looked up. "Did you find Isla?" "Yeah." "Where is she?" "She went back to her family." "Why?" "It's complicated, Bud." "Is she coming back?" Landon sank into a chair. "I don't think so." Noah's face crumpled. "But she promised she'd teach me about perspective drawing." "I know." "Did we do something wrong?" "No, you didn't do anything wrong." "Then why did she leave?" "Because sometimes people leave even when you don't want them to." Noah's eyes filled with tears. "Like Mom." Landon's chest cracked open. "Yeah, like Mom. I hate this." "Me too." Noah threw his pencil down and ran to his room. Landon sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. He'd lost. Completely. Monroe had outplayed him at every turn, and now Isla was trapped in exactly the life she'd spent years running from, and there was nothing he could do. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry. Please don't hate me." Landon typed back immediately. "Where are you?" No response. He tried calling. Voicemail. He called again. And again. Nothing. He threw his phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. For the first time in 3 years, Landon cried. Not quiet tears, not controlled grief. He broke down completely, shoulders shaking, breath coming in ragged gasps. Because he'd tried. He'd fought. He'd done everything he could think of, and it still wasn't enough. He stayed on the floor until his body went numb and his tears ran dry. Then he picked himself up, retrieved his phone, and called Sarah Mitchell. She answered on the third ring. "Hayes, I've been trying to reach you." "What's going on?" "Monroe's lawyers are tearing into the story, claiming clerical errors, misunderstandings, politically motivated attacks. They're good, really good." "Is the investigation still active?" "For now. But unless something else breaks, they might not have enough to move forward." Landon's stomach sank. "So he wins." "Not necessarily. I'm still digging, and the FBI is smarter than Monroe gives them credit for." "But there's a chance he walks away from this." Sarah hesitated. "Yeah, there's a chance." "What happens to Isla?" "What do you mean?" "If he wins, if he gets away with everything, what happens to her?" "I don't know." "Why?" "Because she's the one who loses most in all of this. And I can't—" His voice broke. "I can't just let that happen." Sarah's tone softened. "Landon, you did everything you could. You exposed corruption. You stood up to a powerful man. That took guts. It also accomplished nothing. That's not true. Isla's back with her father, about to marry some guy she doesn't love. How is that not nothing?" "Because you gave her a choice. Maybe she didn't take it, but that doesn't mean it didn't matter." Landon leaned against the wall. "It should have mattered more. Sometimes the right thing doesn't work out the way we want." That's a really depressing philosophy. "Welcome to journalism." After they hung up, Landon checked on Noah. He was asleep, face buried in his pillow. Landon pulled the blanket over him and sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm sorry, Bud," he whispered. "I tried." Noah didn't stir. Landon went back to the living room and opened his laptop. He pulled up Monroe's financial records again, searching for something, anything he might have missed. But there was nothing new. Just the same transactions he'd already documented. He was about to close the laptop when his email pinged. A message from an address he didn't recognize. Subject line: You're looking in the wrong place. Landon's heart stuttered. He opened it. The message was brief. Monroe's finances are clean because he scrubs them regularly, but his associates aren't as careful. Check Hastings Development's offshore accounts, particularly the Cayman transfers from 2019. A friend. No signature, no way to trace who sent it. Landon stared at the screen. This could be a trap. Could be Monroe trying to lure him into something illegal, or it could be the break he needed. He opened a new browser window and started searching. Hastings Development Group, offshore accounts, Cayman Islands. It took him 4 hours and 3 separate databases to find anything, but when he did, his hands started shaking. In 2019, Hastings Development had received a wire transfer of $2.3 million from an offshore account registered to a shell corporation. That same shell corporation had received payments from a consulting firm Monroe had used for years. The money had been laundered through 3 different entities, but the trail was there. Monroe hadn't just accepted bribes. He'd helped hide them. Landon saved everything to the flash drive, his heart pounding. This was it. Real evidence. Not just suspicious transactions, actual proof of money laundering. He called Sarah Mitchell again. "It's 1 a.m, she answered groggily. "I found something, offshore accounts, money laundering. It connects Monroe directly to Hastings." Sarah was suddenly awake. "Send me everything." "I will, but I need something from you first." "What?" "When this breaks, and it will break, I need you to make sure Isla's protected, that she doesn't get caught in the fallout." "I can't promise that." "Try." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I'll do what I can." "That's good enough." Landon sent her the files. Then he sat back and waited for the explosion. It came 36 hours later. Sarah's second article hit like a bomb. Senator Monroe linked to offshore money laundering scheme. This time there was no ambiguity. No room for lawyers to spin it as clerical errors. The evidence was clear, documented, irrefutable. By noon, federal agents had raided Monroe's office. By evening, he'd been formally charged with bribery, money laundering, and conspiracy. By midnight, he'd resigned from the Senate. Landon watched it all unfold from his apartment, barely believing it was real. His phone rang constantly. Reporters, lawyers, people he'd never met asking for interviews. He ignored all of them, except one. Isla. She called at 2 a.m, voice wrecked from crying. "You did it," she said. "We did it." "No, this was you. All you." "Where are you?" "Still at my father's house, but not for long. The engagement's off. Connor's family wants nothing to do with us now." "Good. My father's lawyers are preparing for trial. They're saying he could face 10 years. How do you feel about that?" Isla was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Part of me feels guilty. He's still my father, but mostly I just feel free." Landon's throat tightened. "You coming back? Do you want me to?" "What kind of question is that?" "An honest one. I walked away from you, told you to forget about me. I wouldn't blame you if I'm— Get over here!" "Landon, I'm serious. Stop talking and get over here." She laughed, broken and relieved. "Okay, give me an hour." She arrived in 45 minutes. Landon opened the door and she fell into his arms. They didn't speak, just held each other like they were afraid the other might disappear. Finally, Isla pulled back. "I thought I was protecting you," she whispered. "I thought if I went back, he'd leave you alone." "I know. I was so scared he'd hurt you, hurt Noah." "He tried. We survived. I'm sorry I didn't fight harder." "You fought plenty. You just fought different." Isla's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway." She kissed him, hard and desperate and real. When they broke apart, she pressed her forehead against his. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we figure out what normal looks like." "I don't know how to do normal." "Me neither. We'll learn together." A sound from the hallway made them both turn. Noah stood in his doorway, rubbing his eyes. "Isla?" She dropped to her knees. "Hey, kiddo." Noah ran to her and she caught him in a hug. "You came back," he said. "I did." "Are you staying?" Isla looked at Landon. He nodded. "Yeah," she said. "I'm staying." Noah squeezed her tighter. Good, because I have so many drawings to show you. Isla laughed through her tears. I can't wait to see them. The three of them sat on the living room floor until sunrise, Noah chattering about everything Isla had missed, Isla listening like every word mattered, and Landon watched them both, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The first 2 weeks after Isla came back were harder than Landon expected. Not because she wasn't there, she was. Every morning at breakfast, every evening helping Noah with homework, every night falling asleep on the couch while they watched movies neither of them paid attention to. But she was different, quieter, like some part of her was still locked in that office with her father, still hearing his voice tell her she didn't deserve to choose her own life. Landon didn't push, just gave her space and tried to pretend the silence didn't worry him. Noah noticed, too. Is Isla okay? He asked one night while Landon tucked him in. She's getting there. She seems sad. She's been through a lot. Can we help? Landon smoothed Noah's hair back. We're helping just by being here. That doesn't seem like much. Sometimes that's all someone needs. Noah considered this. Dad? Yeah? Are you scared she'll leave again? Landon's chest tightened. A little. Me too. But we can't live scared, bud. We just have to trust that she wants to be here as much as we want her here. What if she doesn't? Then we deal with it, together. Noah nodded, but Landon could see the worry still etched in his face. After Noah fell asleep, Landon found Isla on the apartment balcony, barely big enough for one person, let alone two. She was staring at the city lights, arms wrapped around herself. You okay? He asked. My father's trial starts next month. I know. They want me to testify. Landon moved beside her. You don't have to. I think I do. Why? Because if I don't, he might walk. And if he walks, this was all for nothing. It wasn't for nothing. You're here. You're safe. Isla shook her head. I'm not safe. Not really. Not until he's actually behind bars and can't reach me anymore. What are you afraid he'll do? I don't know. That's what scares me. He's lost everything. His career, his reputation, his power. People like him don't just accept that. They burn everything down on the way out. Let him try. We'll handle it. You keep saying that. Because I mean it. Isla turned to face him. What if I can't testify? What if I get up there and freeze? Then you freeze and we figure it out. You make everything sound so simple. It is simple. You show up. You tell the truth. Whatever happens after that is out of your control. I hate not being in control. Yeah, I've noticed. She almost smiled. Then her expression crumbled. I'm scared, Landon. I know. What if this doesn't work? What if he gets off and comes after me again? Then we run, all three of us. We disappear somewhere he can't find us. You'd do that? I'd do anything to keep you and Noah safe. Isla's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how you can still say that after everything I've put you through. Because you're worth it. I'm really not. Stop telling me what you're worth. I'll decide that for myself. She kissed him then, soft and desperate, and Landon held her like she might shatter. When they finally went inside, Isla fell asleep curled against him on the couch, and Landon stayed awake watching her breathe, trying to memorize the feeling of having her close. The media attention didn't fade the way Landon hoped it would. Reporters still called, still showed up outside his apartment, still asked invasive questions about his relationship with the senator's daughter. Work became impossible. His supervisor pulled him aside 3 weeks after the story broke. We need to talk about your situation. What situation? The media circus. It's affecting the office. Clients are uncomfortable. Other employees are distracted. Landon's stomach dropped. Are you firing me? I'm suggesting you take a leave of absence, paid, until things settle down. And if they don't settle down? His supervisor looked uncomfortable. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Landon cleaned out his desk that afternoon. When he got home, Isla was painting in the living room, something she'd started doing more often, spreading drop cloths across the floor and losing herself in color for hours. She looked up when he walked in. You're home early. They put me on leave. Her face fell. Because of me. Because of the media attention. which is because of me. Isla, I'm destroying your life. You're not. Yes, I am. She stood, paintbrush still in hand. You lost your job because reporters won't leave you alone. Noah can't go to school without cameras following him. You're living in constant chaos because I dragged you into my mess. I chose this. You shouldn't have had to choose. But I did, and I'd choose it again. Isla threw the paintbrush down. Why? What is wrong with you? Why can't you just admit this was a mistake? Because it wasn't. You're lying to yourself. No, I'm finally being honest. Landon moved closer. For 3 years, I convinced myself that safety was enough. That as long as Noah was fed and I kept my head down, that was success. And then you showed up and reminded me that safety isn't the same as living. So now you're unemployed and harassed daily. That's living? It's better than slowly dying in a cubicle, pretending I didn't have dreams. Isla stared at him. What dreams? Architecture. I wanted to design buildings, create spaces that actually meant something, but I gave it up because it felt too risky, too uncertain. So go back to it. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I'm 32 with a kid and no money. Nobody's going to hire an architect who hasn't practiced in a decade. Then don't get hired. Start your own thing. With what capital? Isla walked to her bag, pulled out an envelope, and handed it to him. Landon opened it. Inside was a check for $75,000. His hands went numb. Where did this come from? I sold some artwork, pieces I'd been holding on to, and I liquidated the trust fund my grandmother left me. It's not much, but it's enough to get started. I can't take this. It's not for you, it's for us, for the life we're trying to build. Isla, please, let me do this. Let me contribute something other than chaos. Landon looked at the check, then at her paint-stained hands, then at the half-finished canvas behind her, a cityscape at sunset, all sharp angles and warm light. What did you paint? He asked. What you described once. The community housing project you wanted to design. Buildings that felt like home instead of just shelter. Landon's throat tightened. You remembered that? I remember everything you've told me. He pulled her close, check still clutched in his hand. We're going to make this work. You think so? I know so. 3 weeks later, Landon filed paperwork to start his own architecture firm. It was small, barely more than a name and a website, but it was his. He worked from the apartment, spreading blueprints across the kitchen table while Isla painted in the corner and Noah did homework on the couch. It felt chaotic, cramped, completely unsustainable. It felt perfect. Isla started selling her artwork online. Nothing fancy, just a simple website with photos of her paintings and a pricing structure that made Landon wince. You're undercharging, he said, looking at the numbers. I'm building a client base. You could charge triple this and sell nothing. I'd rather sell at a price people can afford and actually make rent. We're making rent. Barely. She wasn't wrong. Between Landon's non-existent income and Isla's sporadic sales, they were scraping by on fumes and stubbornness. But somehow, they managed. Landon landed his first client 2 months after opening his firm, a small nonprofit that needed affordable housing designs. The pay was terrible. The timeline was brutal. He took it anyway. He worked 16-hour days surviving on coffee and adrenaline, rediscovering muscles in his brain he'd forgotten existed. Isla would bring him food at midnight, sitting beside him while he sketched, pointing out details he'd missed. That window's too small, she'd say. It meets code. Doesn't mean it's right. People need light. She was usually correct. Noah helped too, in his own way. He'd test Landon's models, crawling around them like they were play sets, declaring which rooms felt cozy and which felt weird. Landon learned more from his son's instincts than any textbook. The trial date arrived faster than any of them were ready for. Isla received a subpoena to testify against her father. She spent the week before barely eating, barely sleeping, pacing the apartment like a caged animal. Landon tried to help, but there wasn't much he could do except be there. The night before her testimony, she broke down completely. I can't do this, she sobbed. I can't get up there and face him. Yes, you can. You don't understand. He'll look at me like I'm nothing, like I'm the disappointment he always said I was. Then let him. His opinion doesn't define you. It feels like it does. Landon pulled her close. Listen to me. Your father spent your entire life trying to make you small, trying to convince you that you only mattered if you fit into his perfect image. But you didn't fit. You never did. And instead of breaking, you walked away. That takes more strength than he'll ever have. I don't feel strong. You don't have to feel it. You just have to show up. What if I mess up? Then you mess up, but you'll do it telling the truth. And that's what matters. Isla cried herself to sleep that night. Landon stayed awake, holding her, praying to nothing in particular that she'd find the courage she needed. The courtroom was cold and impersonal. Landon sat in the gallery with Noah, watching Isla take the witness stand. She looked tiny up there, fragile in a way he'd never seen before. Richard Monroe sat at the defense table, flanked by expensive lawyers, expression unreadable. The prosecutor started gently, asking Isla basic questions about her relationship with her father, her childhood, her decision to leave home. Isla answered quietly but clearly. Then the questions got harder. Did your father ever threaten you? Yes. Can you describe those threats? Isla hesitated. Her eyes found Landon in the crowd. He nodded. She took a breath. He told me that if I didn't come home, he'd destroy anyone I cared about. He said he'd ruin their lives, make sure they lost everything. Did you believe him? Yes, because I'd seen him do it before. The prosecutor walked her through specific incidents. The boyfriend who'd been blacklisted, the landlord who'd evicted her, the pattern of control and manipulation that defined her entire life. Monroe's lawyers objected constantly, trying to derail her testimony. But Isla kept going, kept telling the truth, even when her voice shook. Finally, the defense got their turn. Monroe's lead attorney was a shark, mid-50s, sharp suit, smile that didn't reach his eyes. Miss Monroe, isn't it true that you have a history of erratic behavior? Objection. I'll rephrase. You left home without telling anyone where you were going, correct? Yes. You changed your name, used fake identification, lived under aliases. Yes. Sounds like someone with something to hide. Objection. Argumentative. Sustained. The attorney smiled. You've also recently begun a relationship with Mr. Landon Hayes, correct? Isla's jaw tightened. Yes. The same Landon Hayes who provided the financial documents that led to your father's indictment. Yes. Convenient timing, wouldn't you say? Objection. Withdrawn. The attorney turned to the jury. No further questions. Isla stepped down, face pale. Landon met her in the hallway. You did great, he said. I felt like I was drowning. But you didn't drown. You made it through. She leaned against him, exhausted. The trial lasted 3 more weeks. Witness after witness took the stand. Financial experts, former associates, people Monroe had threatened or bribed over the years. The evidence was overwhelming. When the jury returned with a guilty verdict on all counts, Isla didn't react, just sat perfectly still, staring at her hands. Monroe was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. As they led him out of the courtroom, he looked directly at Isla. She stared back, unflinching, and for the first time in her life, she didn't look away first. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Landon pulled Isla through the crowd, Noah's hand tight in his, until they reached the car. They drove in silence for 10 minutes. Then Isla started laughing. Not happy laughter, hysterical, broken laughter that turned into sobs halfway through. Landon pulled over and held her while she fell apart. It's over, she kept saying. It's actually over. Yeah, it is. I can't believe it's over. Believe it. She cried until she had nothing left. Then she pulled back, wiping her face. What do we do now? She asked. Whatever we want. I don't know what that is. Then we figure it out together. 6 months later, Landon's firm landed its first major contract. A developer wanted affordable housing designs for a community project across the city. Real budget, real timeline, real money. Landon hired 2 junior architects and rented a small office space. Isla's artwork started selling faster than she could paint. A gallery downtown offered her a show. Noah made the honor roll and stopped having nightmares about men in suits. Life didn't become perfect. The apartment was still too small. Money was still tight. Landon still worked too much, and Isla still had days where the weight of everything crushed her. But they were building something real. 1 year after the trial, Isla moved in officially. Not that she hadn't been living there already. Her clothes filled half the closet, her paintings covered the walls, her toothbrush had a permanent spot in the bathroom. But making it official felt different, important. Noah helped her unpack the last of her boxes, chattering about where everything should go. "This painting goes in my room," he declared, holding up a canvas of a sunset. "That's my favorite," Isla protested. "Then you can visit it whenever you want." She laughed. "Deal." That night, after Noah went to bed, Landon found Isla on the balcony again. "You doing okay?" he asked. "Better than okay." She turned to face him. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong. Maybe nothing will. That's what scares me. I don't know how to exist without waiting for disaster." "You learn. Same way you learned everything else, one day at a time." Isla leaned into him. "I love you." It was the first time she'd said it out loud. Landon's chest tightened. "I love you too. Even though I'm a mess? Especially because you're a mess. That's a terrible reason." "It's my reason." She kissed him, and they stood there on the tiny balcony, holding each other while the city hummed below. 2 years after the night they met, Landon finished his first major project. The community housing development was everything he'd imagined. Clean lines, natural light, spaces designed for real people with real lives. The opening ceremony was small. Local officials, a few reporters, families moving into the new units. Isla and Noah came, standing in the crowd, while Landon gave a short speech about architecture that served people instead of profit. When he finished, Noah ran up and hugged him. "I'm proud of you, Dad." Landon's throat closed. "Thanks, bud." "Can we go see the apartments?" "Sure." They toured the building together, Noah pointing out all the features Landon had incorporated based on his feedback. Big windows, reading nooks, kitchens that felt welcoming instead of cramped. Isla walked through quietly, taking everything in. Afterward, when everyone else had left, she pulled Landon aside. "This is incredible." "It's just a building." "No, it's proof that you can survive something terrible and still create something beautiful." Landon looked at the structure he'd designed, thinking about all the hours, all the doubt, all the nights he'd wanted to quit. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said. "Yes, you could have. You just wouldn't have believed it." "Same thing." She smiled. "Maybe." That evening, they celebrated at the apartment with takeout and cheap wine. Noah fell asleep on the couch halfway through a movie, and Landon carried him to bed. When he came back, Isla was standing by the window, holding a small wooden box. "What's that?" he asked. "Something I've been working on." She handed it to him. Inside was the café receipt from the night they'd first met, pressed flat and preserved behind glass. Below it, a small card with Isla's handwriting. "You walked into my worst night and turned it into the beginning of my life." Landon stared at it, unable to speak. "I know it's not much," Isla said nervously, "but I wanted you to have something that reminded you." He kissed her, hard and certain and full of everything he couldn't put into words. When they broke apart, Isla was crying. "Is that a yes?" she whispered. "A yes to what?" "To this, to us, to building a life that's messy and imperfect and real." Landon laughed. "That's the easiest yes I've ever given." They stood there in the small apartment that had somehow become home, holding each other while the city lights flickered outside. And Landon realized something he'd been too afraid to admit before. He'd spent years believing that survival was enough, that keeping his head down and protecting what little he had was the best he could hope for. But Isla had taught him different. She'd taught him that sometimes the people who save your life aren't the ones who fix everything. They're the ones who show up in your worst moments and refuse to let you face them alone. She taught him that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone whose mess fits with yours in a way that makes both of you stronger. And she taught him that choosing to fight for something, even when the odds are impossible, is better than choosing safety and spending the rest of your life wondering what you missed. 3 years after that rainy night in the café, Landon stood on a rooftop during Noah's 9th birthday party. The space was small, but filled with people, friends, coworkers, families from the housing project he'd designed. Isla moved through the crowd, laughing with someone about a painting commission, completely at ease in a way she never used to be. Noah ran past, chasing another kid, happy and loud and completely unburdened by the weight his father used to carry. Landon watched them both and felt something settle in his chest. Not perfection, not the absence of problems, just peace. The kind that comes from knowing you've survived the worst and came out the other side with people worth surviving for. As the sun set and music started playing, Landon pulled Isla aside. "You good?" she asked. "Better than good." "What's the occasion?" "No occasion, just wanted to tell you something." "Okay." He took her hand. 3 years ago, I was standing in a café, convinced my life was over, that I'd already had my shot at happiness and missed it. And then you sat down across from me and changed everything. Isla's eyes filled with tears. "Landon, let me finish. You changed everything, not because you were perfect or because you had all the answers. You changed everything because you were brave enough to be broken in front of me. And that gave me permission to be broken too, to stop pretending I had it all together and just be human." "I'm still broken," she whispered. "So am I. But we're broken together, and that's enough." Isla kissed him as fireworks from a nearby festival started exploding across the sky. Noah ran over, pointing at the lights. "Dad, look!" Landon pulled him close, one arm around his son, one around the woman who'd taught him how to hope again. And in that moment, surrounded by noise and light and people who'd become family, he understood something fundamental about the way life works. Sometimes the best things don't arrive when you're ready for them. They arrive when you're falling apart, sitting alone in the wrong place at the wrong time, convinced you've already lost everything worth having. And if you're lucky, if you're brave enough to let them in, they don't fix you. They just show you that being unfixed is okay, that survival isn't the same as living, that choosing hope over safety is the hardest and best decision you'll ever make. Landon looked at Isla, at Noah, at the city stretching out below them. He thought about the man he used to be, exhausted, afraid, convinced his life was just about endurance. And he thought about the man he'd become, still exhausted, still afraid sometimes, but no longer just enduring, living, really living. Because sometimes the people who save your life arrive when you least expect them, sitting quietly across from you in a cafe on a rainy night, asking for 30 seconds of pretending. And if you're smart, you give them more than 30 seconds. You give them everything. The first 2 weeks after Isla came back were harder than Landon expected. Not because she wasn't there. She was. Every morning at breakfast, every evening helping Noah with homework, every night falling asleep on the couch while they watched movies neither of them paid attention to. But she was different, quieter, like some part of her was still locked in that office with her father, still hearing his voice tell her she didn't deserve to choose her own life. Landon didn't push, just gave her space and tried to pretend the silence didn't worry him. Noah noticed too. "Is Isla okay?" he asked one night while Landon tucked him in. "She's getting there. She seems sad. She's been through a lot. Can we help?" Landon smoothed Noah's hair back. "We're helping just by being here." "That doesn't seem like much." "Sometimes that's all someone needs." Noah considered this. "Dad? Yeah? Are you scared she'll leave again?" Landon's chest tightened. "A little." "Me too." "But we can't live scared, bud. We just have to trust that she wants to be here as much as we want her here." "What if she doesn't?" "Then we deal with it. Together." Noah nodded, but Landon could see the worry still etched in his face. After Noah fell asleep, Landon found Isla on the apartment balcony, barely big enough for one person, let alone two. She was staring at the city lights, arms wrapped around herself. "You okay?" he asked. "My father's trial starts next month." "I know. They want me to testify." Landon moved beside her. "You don't have to." "I think I do." "Why?" "Because if I don't, he might walk. And if he walks, this was all for nothing." "It wasn't for nothing. You're here. You're safe." Isla shook her head. "I'm not safe. Not really. Not until he's actually behind bars and can't reach me anymore." "What are you afraid he'll do?" "I don't know. That's what scares me. He's lost everything, his career, his reputation, his power. People like him don't just accept that. They burn everything down on the way out." Let him try. We'll handle it. You keep saying that. Because I mean it. Isla turned to face him. What if I can't testify? What if I get up there and freeze? Then you freeze, and we figure it out. You make everything sound so simple. It is simple. You show up, you tell the truth. Whatever happens after that is out of your control. I hate not being in control. Yeah, I've noticed. She almost smiled. Then her expression crumbled. I'm scared, Landon. I know. What if this doesn't work? What if he gets off and comes after me again? Then we run. All three of us. We disappear somewhere he can't find us. You'd do that? I'd do anything to keep you and Noah safe. Isla's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how you can still say that after everything I've put you through. Because you're worth it. I'm really not. Stop telling me what you're worth. I'll decide that for myself. She kissed him then, soft and desperate, and Landon held her like she might shatter. When they finally went inside, Isla fell asleep curled against him on the couch, and Landon stayed awake watching her breathe, trying to memorize the feeling of having her close. The media attention didn't fade the way Landon hoped it would. Reporters still called, still showed up outside his apartment, still asked invasive questions about his relationship with the senator's daughter. Work became impossible. His supervisor pulled him aside 3 weeks after the story broke. We need to talk about your situation. What situation? The media circus. It's affecting the office. Clients are uncomfortable. Other employees are distracted. Landon's stomach dropped. Are you firing me? I'm suggesting you take a leave of absence, paid, until things settle down. And if they don't settle down? His supervisor looked uncomfortable. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Landon cleaned out his desk that afternoon. When he got home, Isla was painting in the living room, something she'd started doing more often, spreading drop cloths across the floor and losing herself in color for hours. She looked up when he walked in. You're home early. They put me on leave. Her face fell. Because of me. Because of the media attention. Which is because of me. Isla, I'm destroying your life. You're not. Yes, I am. She stood, paintbrush still in hand. You lost your job because reporters won't leave you alone. Noah can't go to school without cameras following him. You're living in constant chaos because I dragged you into my mess. I chose this. You shouldn't have had to choose. But I did, and I'd choose it again. Isla threw the paintbrush down. Why? What is wrong with you? Why can't you just admit this was a mistake? Because it wasn't. You're lying to yourself. No, I'm finally being honest. Landon moved closer. For 3 years, I convinced myself that safety was enough. That as long as Noah was fed and I kept my head down, that was success. And then you showed up and reminded me that safety isn't the same as living. So now you're unemployed and harassed daily? That's living? It's better than slowly dying in a cubicle, pretending I didn't have dreams. Isla stared at him. What dreams? Architecture. I wanted to design buildings, create spaces that actually meant something, but I gave it up because it felt too risky, too uncertain. So go back to it. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I'm 32 with a kid and no money. Nobody's going to hire an architect who hasn't practiced in a decade. Then don't get hired. Start your own thing. With what capital? Isla walked to her bag, pulled out an envelope, and handed it to him. Landon opened it. Inside was a check for $75,000. His hands went numb. Where did this come from? I sold some artwork, pieces I'd been holding on to, and I liquidated the trust fund my grandmother left me. It's not much, but it's enough to get started. I can't take this. It's not for you. It's for us, for the life we're trying to build. Please, let me do this. Let me contribute something other than chaos. Landon looked at the check, then at her paint-stained hands, then at the half-finished canvas behind her, a cityscape at sunset, all sharp angles and warm light. What did you paint? He asked. What you described once, the community housing project you wanted to design, buildings that felt like home instead of just shelter. Landon's throat tightened. You remembered that? I remember everything you've told me. He pulled her close, check still clutched in his hand. We're going to make this work. You think so? I know so. 3 weeks later, Landon filed paperwork to start his own architecture firm. It was small, barely more than a name and a website. But it was his. He worked from the apartment, spreading blueprints across the kitchen table, while Isla painted in the corner and Noah did homework on the couch. It felt chaotic, cramped, completely unsustainable. It felt perfect. Isla started selling her artwork online. Nothing fancy, just a simple website with photos of her paintings and a pricing structure that made Landon wince. "You're undercharging," he said, looking at the numbers. "I'm building a client base. You could charge triple this and sell nothing. I'd rather sell at a price people can afford and actually make rent." "We're making rent." "Barely." She wasn't wrong. Between Landon's non-existent income and Isla's sporadic sales, they were scraping by on fumes and stubbornness. But somehow, they managed. Landon landed his first client 2 months after opening his firm, a small nonprofit that needed affordable housing designs. The pay was terrible, the timeline was brutal. He took it anyway. He worked 16-hour days, surviving on coffee and adrenaline, rediscovering muscles in his brain he'd forgotten existed. Isla would bring him food at midnight, sitting beside him while he sketched, pointing out details he'd missed. "That window's too small," she'd say. "It meets code. Doesn't mean it's right. People need light." She was usually correct. Noah helped too in his own way. He'd test Landon's models, crawling around them like they were playsets, declaring which rooms felt cozy and which felt weird. Landon learned more from his son's instincts than any textbook. The trial date arrived faster than any of them were ready for. Isla received a subpoena to testify against her father. She spent the week before barely eating, barely sleeping, pacing the apartment like a caged animal. Landon tried to help, but there wasn't much he could do except be there. The night before her testimony, she broke down completely. "I can't do this," she sobbed. "I can't get up there and face him." "Yes, you can. You don't understand. He'll look at me like I'm nothing, like I'm the disappointment he always said I was." "Then let him. His opinion doesn't define you." "It feels like it does." Landon pulled her close. "Listen to me. Your father spent your entire life trying to make you small, trying to convince you that you only mattered if you fit into his perfect image. But you didn't fit. You never did. And instead of breaking, you walked away. That takes more strength than he'll ever have. I don't feel strong. You don't have to feel it. You just have to show up. What if I mess up? Then you mess up. But you'll do it telling the truth. And that's what matters." Isla cried herself to sleep that night. Landon stayed awake, holding her, hoping she'd find the courage she needed. The courtroom was cold and impersonal. Landon sat in the gallery with Noah, watching Isla take the witness stand. She looked tiny up there, fragile in a way he'd never seen before. Richard Monroe sat at the defense table, flanked by expensive lawyers, expression unreadable. The prosecutor started gently, asking Isla basic questions about her relationship with her father, her childhood, her decision to leave home. Isla answered quietly but clearly. Then the questions got harder. "Did your father ever threaten you?" "Yes." "Can you describe those threats?" Isla hesitated. Her eyes found Landon in the crowd. He nodded. She took a breath. "He told me that if I didn't come home, he'd destroy anyone I cared about. He said he'd ruin their lives, make sure they lost everything." "Did you believe him?" "Yes, because I'd seen him do it before." The prosecutor walked her through specific incidents. The boyfriend who'd been blacklisted, the landlord who'd evicted her, the pattern of control and manipulation that defined her entire life. Monroe's lawyers objected constantly, trying to derail her testimony. But Isla kept going, kept telling the truth, even when her voice shook. Finally, the defense got their turn. Monroe's lead attorney was a shark, mid-50s, sharp suit, smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Ms. Monroe, isn't it true that you have a history of erratic behavior?" "Objection." "I'll rephrase. You left home without telling anyone where you were going, correct?" "Yes." "You changed your name, used fake identification, lived under aliases." "Yes." Sounds like someone with something to hide. "Objection. Argumentative." "Sustained." The attorney smiled. "You've also recently begun a relationship with Mr. Landon Hayes, correct?" Isla's jaw tightened. "Yes." The The same Landon Hayes who provided the financial documents that led to your father's indictment. Yes. Convenient timing, wouldn't you say? Objection. Withdrawn. The attorney turned to the jury. No further questions. Isla stepped down, face pale. Landon met her in this hallway. You did great, he said. I felt like I was drowning. But you didn't drown. You made it through. She leaned against him, exhausted. The trial lasted 3 more weeks. Witness after witness took the stand. Financial experts, former associates, people Monroe had threatened or bribed over the years. The evidence was overwhelming. When the jury returned with a guilty verdict on all counts, Isla didn't react, just sat perfectly still, staring at her hands. Monroe was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. As they led him out of the courtroom, he looked directly at Isla. She stared back, unflinching, and for the first time in her life, she didn't look away first. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Landon pulled Isla through the crowd. Noah's hand tightened his until they reached the car. They drove in silence for 10 minutes. Then Isla started laughing. Not happy laughter, hysterical broken laughter that turned into sobs halfway through. Landon pulled over and held her while she fell apart. It's over, she kept saying. It's actually over. Yeah, it is. I can't believe it's over. Believe it. She cried until she had nothing left. Then she pulled back, wiping her face. What do we do now? She asked. Whatever we want. I don't know what that is. Then we figure it out, together. 6 months later, Landon's firm landed its first major contract. A developer wanted affordable housing designs for a community project across the city. Real budget, real timeline, real money. Landon hired 2 junior architects and rented a small office space. Isla's artwork started selling faster than she could paint. A gallery downtown offered her a show. Small at first, tucked in a back room, but it was hers. Noah made the honor roll and stopped having nightmares about men in suits. Life didn't become perfect. The apartment was still too small. Money was still tight. Landon still worked too much, and Isla still had days where the weight of everything crushed her. But they were building something real, something that belonged to them. 1 year after the trial, Isla moved in officially. Not that she hadn't been living there already. Her clothes filled half the closet, her paintings covered the walls, her toothbrush had a permanent spot in the bathroom. But making it official felt different, important. Noah helped her unpack the last of her boxes, chattering about where everything should go. This painting goes in my room, he declared, holding up a canvas of a sunset. That's my favorite, Isla protested. Then you can visit it whenever you want. She laughed. Deal. That night, after Noah went to bed, Landon found Isla on the balcony again. You doing okay? He asked. Better than okay. She turned to face him. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong. Maybe nothing will. That's what scares me. I don't know how to exist without waiting for disaster. You learn, same way you learned everything else, one day at a time. Isla leaned into him. I love you. It was the first time she'd said it out loud. Landon's chest tightened. I love you too. Even though I'm a mess? Especially because you're a mess. That's a terrible reason. It's my reason. She kissed him, and they stood there on the tiny balcony, holding each other while the city hummed below. 2 years after the night they met, Landon finished his first major project. The community housing development was everything he'd imagined. Clean lines, natural light, spaces designed for real people with real lives. Not luxury, not trendy, just functional and warm and built to last. The opening ceremony was small. Local officials, a few reporters, families moving into the new units. Isla and Noah came, standing in the crowd while Landon gave a short speech about architecture that served people instead of profit. When he finished, Noah ran up and hugged him. I'm proud of you, Dad. Landon's throat closed. Thanks, bud. Can we go see the apartments? Sure. They toured the building together, Noah pointing out all the features Landon had incorporated based on his feedback. Big windows, reading nooks, kitchens that felt welcoming instead of cramped. Isla walked through quietly, taking everything in. Afterward, when everyone else had left, she pulled Landon aside. This is incredible. It's just a building. No, it's proof that you can survive something terrible and still create something beautiful. Landon looked at the structure he'd designed, thinking about all the hours, all the doubt, all the nights he'd wanted to quit. I couldn't have done it without you, he said. Yes, you could have. You just wouldn't have believed it. Same thing, she smiled. Maybe. That evening, they celebrated at the apartment with takeout and cheap wine. Noah fell asleep on the couch halfway through a movie, and Landon carried him to bed. When he came back, Isla was standing by the window, holding a small wooden box. What's that? He asked. Something I've been working on. She handed it to him. Inside was the café receipt from the night they'd first met, pressed flat and preserved behind glass. Below it, a small card with Isla's handwriting. You walked into my worst night and turned it into the beginning of my life. Landon stared at it, unable to speak. I know it's not much, Isla said nervously, but I wanted you to have something that reminded you. He kissed her, hard and certain and full of everything he couldn't put into words. When they broke apart, Isla was crying. Marry me, Landon said. She blinked. What? Marry me. I don't have a ring. I don't have some elaborate plan, but I know I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Messy, imperfect, real. Isla's hands trembled. You're serious. Completely. We're broke. We're barely holding it together most days. You realize that, right? Yeah, and I don't care. What about Noah? He'll be thrilled. Isla laughed through her tears. This is insane. Probably. Is that a yes? She pulled him close, pressing her forehead against his. Yes. It's a yes. They got married 3 months later. Nothing fancy. Just a courthouse ceremony with Noah as the witness and Mrs. Chen taking photos on a borrowed camera. Isla wore a simple white dress she'd found at a thrift store. Landon wore the same suit he'd worn to their first date, the one that never happened. When the judge pronounced them married, Noah cheered so loud the bailiff had to quiet him down. They celebrated with pizza and ice cream in the park, the three of them sitting on a blanket while the sun set. Are you happy? Isla asked Landon. More than I've ever been. Even though nothing's perfect? Especially because nothing's perfect. Noah tugged on Isla's sleeve. Does this mean you're my mom now? Isla's eyes filled with tears. Only if you want me to be. I do. She pulled him into a hug and Landon watched them, feeling something settle deep in his chest. This was what mattered. Not money, not status, not some perfect life that only existed in movies. Just people who chose each other, who showed up even when things were hard, who built something real out of broken pieces. 2.5 years after the trial, Isla's art show opened at a major gallery downtown. The space was packed, critics, collectors, people who'd been following her work online. Landon stood in the corner with Noah, watching Isla talk to strangers about her paintings. Confident, articulate, completely transformed from the terrified woman who'd sat in a cafe hiding from the rain. She's really good at this, Noah whispered. Yeah, she is. Are you proud of her? Every single day. One of Isla's paintings hung at the center of the exhibition, a large canvas of 3 figures sitting on an apartment floor, surrounded by paint supplies and half-finished drawings. The light was warm, the composition chaotic but comfortable. The title card read, Home. Landon stared at it, recognizing the moment she'd captured. One of those ordinary evenings when they'd all worked on projects together. The apartment a disaster, everyone exhausted but content. Isla appeared beside him. What do you think? She asked. I think it's perfect. It's sold already. Really? Yeah, some collector from California, but I told them they can't have it until after the show closes. I'm not ready to let it go yet. Why'd you sell it if you're not ready? Because that's how this works. You create something. You let people see it. You let it go. And then you create something new. Landon pulled her close. When did you get so wise? I learned from you. I'm not wise. You're wiser than you think. Later that night, after the gallery closed and Noah was asleep at home with Mrs. Chen, Landon and Isla walked through the empty city streets. You ever think about that first night? Isla asked. All the time. What do you think about? How close I came to walking away. How easily I could have just left and never seen you again. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Why not? Landon considered this. Because you look scared, and I remembered what it felt like to be scared and alone, and I thought maybe I could help, even if it was just for a minute. It ended up being a lot longer than a minute. Best decision I ever made. Isla stopped walking. I need to tell you something. Okay? When I left home, I promised myself I'd never let anyone control me again, that I'd rather be alone forever than trapped. I know, but being with you doesn't feel like being trapped. It feels like the first time I've ever been free. Landon's chest tightened. You know why? Why? Because freedom isn't about being alone. It's about choosing who you're with and knowing they chose you back. Isla kissed him, and they stood there on the empty street, holding each other under the streetlights. 3 years after the night they met, Landon stood on a rooftop during Noah's 9th birthday party. The space was small but filled with people, friends, co-workers, families from the housing project he'd designed, artists from Isla's gallery show. Isla moved through the crowd, laughing with someone about a painting commission, completely at ease. Noah ran past with a group of kids, happy and loud and unburdened. Landon watched them both and felt something he'd spent years searching for finally settle into place. Not perfection, not the absence of problems, just peace. As the sun set and music started playing, Landon pulled Isla aside. You good? She asked. Better than good. What's the occasion? No occasion. Just wanted to tell you something. Okay. He took her hand. 3 years ago, I was convinced my life was over, that I'd already had my shot at happiness and missed it. And then you sat down across from me and changed everything. Isla's eyes filled with tears. Landon, you changed everything not because you fixed me. You changed everything because you were brave enough to be broken in front of me. And that gave me permission to stop pretending I had it all together. I'm still broken sometimes. So am I. But we're broken together, and that's better than being whole and alone. Isla kissed him as fireworks from a nearby festival started exploding across the sky. Noah ran over, pointing at the lights. Dad, look! Landon pulled him close, one arm around his son, one around his wife. And in that moment, surrounded by noise and light and people who'd become family, he understood something he'd spent years running from. Life isn't about avoiding pain or waiting for everything to be perfect before you start living. It's about showing up, choosing people even when it's risky, building something real out of whatever broken pieces you've got. It's about understanding that the people who save your life aren't the ones who make everything easy. They're the ones who make the hard parts worth surviving. Landon looked at Isla, at Noah, at the city stretching out below them. He thought about the man he used to be, exhausted, afraid, convinced that safety was the same as success. And he thought about the man he'd become, still exhausted, still afraid sometimes, but no longer just surviving, living, really living. Because sometimes the best things arrive when you're falling apart in a cafe on a rainy night, convinced you've got nothing left to lose. And if you're brave enough to let them in, they don't save you. They just show you that being saved isn't the point. The point is choosing to keep going, choosing to fight for something that matters, choosing messy and imperfect and real over safe and lonely and numb. Landon held his family close and watched the fireworks paint the sky. And he knew, without question, without doubt, that every terrible thing he'd survived had been worth it to get to this moment. Not because the moment was perfect, but because it was his. And that was enough.